Okay, so today we'll discuss more about the annotations. In the last tutorial, we discussed about the @auto-void annotation to inject the member variables dependency, and @required annotation, which was used on the setter method to make sure that this dependency is being set at the time of bean instantiation only. Otherwise, you will get the bean creation exception. Okay. Before moving to the another annotations, let me tell you about this annotation bean post processor. So this way, if you are suppose using 100 annotations in your application, you need to define the bean post processor for each annotation to activate them, so which is not a good thing. So the alternative to do this is, like, I can just uncomment it. I can activate my all annotations in just one line, that is by using the context annotation config in my spring.xml. You can write this line, and what this will do is, we are using the context namespace, so we must have not defined it over here. So you can define this context namespaces over here. So you can just I can take this namespace and define it over here, colon context org schema. It will not be in beans. You can check it in your downloads folder if you want the exact path. Also need to define the, just like you have defined the beans and the schemas, define the for the context also. So okay, here also it will not find it in the beans package, you will find it in the context package. You can check all these things where you have downloaded the Spring jars. Okay, and now you can use the context annotation config. So what actually the context annotation config does? Context annotation config, it will activate the annotations for the beans which are already registered in my container. In the Spring MVC, we discussed about the context component scan. So there's a difference between annotation config and the component scan. This is just going to use to activate the annotations for the beans which are like already being registered. So now this will, all the annotations will work fine because this line will activate them. So let's just run it. Oh, I guess this is because we have not set this first bean address one. Okay, so you can use it over here. Right, because you can see that I am using required on this address one. So I am using this required annotation address one, so it needs to be set. That is why it is showing you an error, that error creating the bean name with manager defined in this, because this is property is required for this bean manager. So now if I try to run it, property address one is required for the bean manager, still it is not being auto wired. Let's just check it. it's not auto wired. Maybe just okay. So let's see. Let me just remove it for the time being and see if it is working. Yes, it is working. Okay, why? Because you cannot use both the auto wired and required at the same time, because it's already being set. If something is not set, then only we can need to use it. So now it's being set. But if we try to, yeah, okay, so this is how the auto wired is working by using the context component or context annotation config also. Okay, so let's study some other annotations also, but that will not be related to Spring. That is Java specific annotations. So the first annotation is @resource. This @resource, it works same way the annotation @auto wired works. That is, it is also used to inject the dependency only into the member variable only class. But the only difference is it's not a Spring annotation, but it is a Java annotation. And this resource annotation, it works on the setter methods and does it by name. So let me just try to use it thus. I'll just use for the address one, I can use this annotation from the Java. So what I can do, use it over here is @. This is Java X dot annotation, not the Spring framework. So you don't need any bean post processor for this. Like this was, these are the GSR 250 annotations. Okay, so let's just run it and see it if it injects the dependency. Yes, it does, because it is doing it by name. So in the manager class I am doing it, and it will look for the dependency with the name, address name. You can define your own name also over here if you want. Okay, I just did it address 11. So now it will try to look for the bean name 11, and since it will not find it, so it will not auto wire it. See, so you can see it over here that no bean this name is available. So if I make this bean name as address 11, it will work fine, because now in the manager this is trying to look for the bean with the name address 11. So this is working the same way as auto wired. It's just that this is Java annotation and it does it by name. So it's working fine. Let me just rename it to address 1 only, and let's just remove this and take the default name that is of the member variable. So this is how the resource annotation works. Another annotation from the Java we have is @post construct and @predestroy annotations. You remember when we were discussing about the init and the destroy method, so at that point we discussed that we have the annotations to perform the same task. So for that we have the post construct and the predestroy annotations. That is also from Java only. So we'll discuss it in the next tutorial.